one can ask questions about censorship in general. Far from being the same thing everywhere and at all times, it has varied according to the character of each regime. It should be studied, I think, ethnographically as an ingredient of a political culture and not as the villain of a story that always has the same plot, repression versus liberty. In all three cases, one can see how political cultures crystallize around core principles: privilege in France, surveillance in British India, and planning in communist East Germany. In each one, censorship pervaded every aspect of literary life, and it shaped literature itself as a cultural system within the socio-political order. It took place at the everyday level through a constant process of interpretation, compromise, complicity, and negotiation. So I see this kind of activity at work everywhere. But does censorship therefore involve constraints of every kind, including the marketplace as understood by Marxists, the subconscious as studied by Freudians, and every speech act as analyzed by literary theorists? According to one theorist, Stanley Fish, quote, "There's no such thing as freedom of speech, and it's a good thing too," end quote. So sometimes I ask my students to give examples of this kind of censorship, and they mention wearing a necktie on certain occasions, or refusing to wear one, brushing your teeth at night, and calling a professor professor. But if censorship is everything, including brushing your teeth, then it is nothing. The postmodern view of censorship trivializes it. I think we should take seriously the testimony of authors who suffered from censorship, notably during the Cold War. Alexander Solzhenitsyn in Russia, Milan Kundera in Czechoslovakia, Czesław Miłosz in Poland, Norman Manea in Romania, Danilo Kish in Yugoslavia. They all wrote accounts of how censorship operated in their lives, especially within their own minds. One of them, an East German novelist called Erich Lust, said, "There was a little green man in my ear." And he was referring to the inner voice that said, "Do you really want to write that? Isn't that going too far? That could get you in trouble." I take this testimony as an argument against the postmodernist trivialization of the concept of censorship. In my own conception, censorship concerns power monopolized by the state, or in some cases by the church, rather than power constraints of every kind. In my view, we need to understand censorship, not merely to condemn it. But while making an attempt at understanding, we must also take a stand, especially today, when the state, with help from Google and Facebook, is watching every move we make.